All right, well, this is Aaron Squire coming to you guys with episode 25. We finally made it, episode 25. I got a special guest, Dan Clark, on with me, as opposed to Ben Stoll, but still, Dan Clark's on. We also are going to be going over patch 830 and an Ian Cannon's. He sent me a deck. I'm going to do a deck doctor over some orcs, some blood ruby orcs, and we're going to do a giveaway for a slacker backer at the end of the program. I got a special little scene where I'm going to roll dice manually because I couldn't get stuff to work. It's going to be great. So stay tuned. We're going to roll right in here. So first things first, let's go to the patch notes. I'm going to go ahead and swap over to here. I hope you guys like the new interface. So patch 830. A lot of basically things that are fixing the game. Not really a lot of changes to cards, as I noticed. Dan, did you have anything specific that you want me to point out?
No, I mean, right now we're at such a late point in the game that we just want everybody to get in there and jam as many games and let us know if any bugs are popping up. Spend some of the currency we gave you so that we can double check that. Try and load up tournaments and spend currency there. Just really do everything that you can, and we're just trying to reach the end here.
Right. So one thing I do want to point out is you guys talked about Incantation of Fear, and as soon as I started reading this, I was like, oh, so they're not going to come into play like with speed anymore. And then I read the bottom of it, and it was like, oh, templating changes. And so the question I think that's on everybody's mind with these incantations is, are they supposed to have speed or not when they come into play? Are they supposed to be able to attack the same turn that you activate them? Which makes some sense to me from a card standpoint because it's the same card. So just talk to me about that.
So it actually depends on whether or not they can attack the same turn. For most of the incantations.
Your microphone is in your left side of your headset.
I'm sorry, one moment.
You gotta pull it out.
Oh yeah, we can get some better sound. We're gonna get better sound with Dan on the program. So there we go. All right, even better.
All right. So for the incantations, the reason that the Ruby one has speed is so that when they transform, all of them transform inside of your deck.
Right.
So any future copies that you draw, those will have speed. For the other ones, whenever we have a card transform, because it's actually already been in play, once it transforms, assuming you haven't played it that turn and transformed it immediately, it'll be able to attack because it's already been in play, and technically it's the card that it was before it transformed.
Right. So moving on, I just want to talk about the paid tournaments. Right now, you guys gave us some more in-game money for just the alpha people as we're about to move into. We're so close to beta. It's. I mean, we're almost there, but you guys really need us to test out doing tournaments and doing them on the pay side of things and use that money for that. And you can open some packs too, but make sure you have some left over to do the tournaments, right? To test that out.
Yeah, that's really where we need everybody to be just hammering away, double checking to make sure that we don't have any bugs that are still popping up, and we can fix the last of those problems before we go live to beta.
I just want to point out this life milestone, or I guess life of the show, Deck Building with the Squire. We made the update. I mean, I think my life is complete, although I will keep doing deck building with the Squire because, you know, you never know, it might show up again in a Hex update. Also, you guys talk about Apple delivery. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be really happy about that. And then you point out a couple of other things. So anything else you want to talk about with this? Or I guess this is basically pointing out that we are so close to this open beta.
Yeah, we're really just in the home stretch, and anything like...
Closed beta.
Of closed beta, and anything the players can do to give us any last feedback. We want to pay attention and see if there's anything else that we can incorporate into our final product.
Right, so moving on, there was a Hex TCG Pro tournament, so for those of you that didn't know, I think you can still sign up. I'm not sure. There's another Challenge Series tournament tomorrow, and if you don't know what to play, John's here to save the day. He put out another article. He gave you 3 decks that you could try or maybe tweak a little bit. Of course, you got a Servant deck. A lot of them have the Angel, that new, what is it called? Angel of, here it is, Angel of Dawn. The Angel of Dawn, which you get for free on turn 2 if you happen to top deck it and you have a diamond shard in play. He's got that one, another angel deck with Extinction, and then he's got an angel deck with Eye of Creation. So just make sure you get over there and check that out. He's also got a new podcast this week. Unfortunately, I didn't listen to it just yet, but yeah, make sure you're getting over there to check that out. And then
all angels all the time.
All angels all the time. So let's go ahead and move on to the interview. The reason why a lot of you are here, the people that don't want to get the, or that are trying to get the, just here for the free Slacker Backer, which you can't get anymore because that's been turned off. So I'd just like to point that out. I'd really like that to go to somebody that doesn't have access to the game, but if it goes to somebody else, that's fine too, and we'll work that out at the end of the program. So, got a couple of questions. You guys are free to ask Dan some questions in chat, and he can respond to you there as well. But first thing I want to ask Dan is your game development background. So where are you coming from? Like what kind of projects, big projects? Obviously the WoW TCG is one of your big ones, but just talk to me about that a little bit.
So how I got started here is I used to play the WoW TCG competitively. And after talking with a couple of members of R&D about my thoughts on the game, they actually just called me up and asked if I was interested in the job. So that was pretty sweet. Then I got started with the WoW TCG, worked on a couple of our board games, Lord of the Rings, and after that I just moved on to Hex and became the lead developer.
Awesome. Yeah, so it's you and Ben. So it's not like we're missing out on very much right now because we have Dan, who's like the other half of Ben, because they're both in charge of Set 1, I believe. Right?
Yeah, we work hand in hand on pretty much everything, and nothing really goes through unless both of us have agreed on it.
I'm going to turn up my volume real quick because they're saying they can't hear you very well, and that should help out a bit. So next question is the game balancing surprises. Any surprises that we've seen a lot of cards lately that have been, I guess you could say nerfed or buffed. We saw a huge buff to a lot of the shin hair stuff, and so talk to me about have you guys had any serious surprises? I mean, you pretty much knew you probably knew Inquisitor was a powerful card, which is another one that just got targeted for a nerf. So were there any cards that have been buffed or nerfed that were complete surprises?
To be honest, not really. For me to be doing my job correctly, I'm actually supposed to be frightened of what can happen because I want to make sure the cards are exciting and powerful and impactful in the format. The players are going to be happy to play with cards like that. I just need to make sure that it doesn't go over the line. So most of the cards that we ended up buffing or nerfing, most of the nerfs were cards that were on my radar for a while. And after seeing a lot of the player feedback and doing internal testing, some of that stuff was okay, I think now's the time to do this. Jadim was one that was on my list for just forever. And
oh yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and as soon as we got the last call on it, it was okay guys, this is your last chance to really fire off any changes. It was okay, we're doing this. The card is still good. I mean, it's still 5 cost for a 5/5.
Oh yeah, it's still pretty awesome. Still activates Puck the Dreamer. It does a lot of things.
Yeah, and for Eye of Creation, we had a different design. It was essentially close to the same thing, but there was a little bit of extra tacked on, and there were some issues where we couldn't continue with the extra little bit, and so Ben wanted to add a little extra on. And I thought it was going to be okay, and then it turns out that the resources going into play was what we added on, and it was just simply far too much. So we toned back on that. And then a lot of the buffs were just making sure that stuff we wanted to make sure that set 1 is really, really big. And we wanted to make sure that shin hair is something that people are still going to be excited about playing and being able to draft consistently. And so we just went through and targeted some cards that we thought were pretty good and safe, and making sure that Shin Hero can be just slightly more popular. So those are the changes that we made to Shin Hero.
What it is. So anyways, moving on, we've got Andrew from Twitter is talking about sealed deck and value. He wants he's a little bit perturbed because he feels like the cards that he's getting in the sealed decks,
The starter decks.
the starter decks, yeah, they aren't worth the value of the deck. So I mean, I guess just talk to that point a little bit, and then he also wants to know about champion gem rotation in the future. Is that going to be a thing?
Well, in terms of the value of the starter decks, I think they actually are pretty reasonable, and it's also something that we're going to find out once the game fully releases and how the value of cards are actually landing. I actually made all the starter decks, and I wanted to make sure each of them felt like each one had a theme that was supporting the tribe, and trying to fit in 3 rares that are going to work along those lines to give like the best possible experience for somebody just starting out with a starter deck. So that was most of the goals for that, and give like a little bit of socketing, and have the rares they're not horrible, but also we still want some chase rares, and I think most of the rares are probably more middle of the road to above average.
Right. Yeah. And if you look at other card games, when it is they release things, I mean, you can't. It's really bad if you release a tier 1 power card in a sealed deck, because then like a lot of people have access to it and it can break the format. And it's not as bad for digital TCGs because you guys can distribute what you need to, but like for distributors and for those physical people, it's like, oh well, I have to buy 4 decks at a time. And then 3 of them are bad that no one wants to buy, and then one of them was really good and it sells out right away, and it really hosed the physical retailers, a lot of those shops.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are things you gotta really weigh things. I remember there being a huge problem back in the day with what was it, the equipment that it's a classic piece of equipment. It's played in Legacy now.
Jitty.
Yeah, Jite was like a huge problem like that.
Yeah, I think all the starter decks are very reasonably balanced, and the cards are like slightly above average. But we had to keep in mind that starter deck rares might end up, because there's going to be so many in existence. We don't want to make a card that's just like one of the tier 1 top of the line. There's still a few of those in there, because we didn't want to completely fill the decks with cards that weren't going to be appealing. So
Right.
I think everything in there is above average and should be fun to be playing with in the starter decks.
Right. And you're targeting newer players with those anyways. They're just learning the game, so you don't want to go too crazy with all the mechanics and things. So Wordle asks he says, are there any set 1 cards that get better in set 2? And I understand you can't really answer this specifically, but could you say that, like, I guess it's more of a yes or no. He says he wants you to name the cards because he's a power gamer, and I don't think that you can do that. But
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not going to give the insider tips on what cards are going to get better in set 2.
Right. Just so everyone's
there's
aware, he can't do any of that insider tips at all.
We are very mindful of that, though, and we want to make sure that a lot of the decks that exist with just set 1 are going to get a lot better. There's going to be a couple of cards should be every single deck that's going to be interesting and you're going to be excited about in set 2. We'll be building upon a lot of the themes that are going on in set 1 even further, and so everybody should find a little piece of something in set 2, if not huge pieces.
Right. So the next one, Jason Barnett from Twitter asked, are there any design restrictions you could talk about on each shard? So I remember actually going back to the Hex dinner where I was sitting across from you, or actually sitting next to you, and I showed you a card that I had developed, which was like a knight, which could you could exhaust it and it could fight other troops, and you were like, that's not really what Diamond does, as an example. Could you give us some other general guidelines for the different shards?
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot that goes into that, because each shard has a lot of different aspects to it that we want to push further. And whenever we have something that's like Sapphire and Diamond have exhausting troops, and whenever we put that in something like Blood or Ruby, it's a little baffling. And we don't want to be doing that. We want to make sure it comes across as though each shard is doing specific things. And they'll cross-section it once or twice, but we want each shard to have a very particular feel, and we don't want to cross over on that. So
right.
Diamond will have exhaustion troops, but then Ruby will have, say, the opposing guys can't block, and it can essentially be close to the same thing, but there's different presentation with that.
Right. So I'm seeing some other decent, I feel like there are pretty good questions in chat. Approximately how many cards are in set 2, and then there's another one that talks about what's the block rotation going to look like.
I know the number of cards in set 2. I'm not sure if that's information I'm supposed to spoil, but it is a smaller set than set 1. And I guess I can't say by how many cards less, because that does still give the exact number.
Right, yeah. I mean,
it is a smaller set, but it'll still be hitting most of the same things, but give a new twist to a lot of the stuff that was going on in set 1, including a very cool new mechanic that's going to be keyworded across some of the races. And it is a lot of fun, and it shows off the digital space in a cool way.
Right. So I'm just going to answer DagZ213. How can we play this game? So if you win the Slacker Backer tonight, you can play the game now. However, right now we're moving from alpha to closed beta, and so you'll have to wait to open beta if you don't win the Slacker Backer tonight. So I hope you win. You're the type of person it is that I want to give this away to. But of course, I hope everybody has an equal chance. I do have some dice here. We're gonna do it old school. So yeah. We actually have a lot of time. So if you guys want to ask some questions, go ahead and ask, and we're gonna move on to the deck doctor while this is. While you guys are asking questions, and Dan's going to answer you because he can't give a ton of input on the deck doctor tonight. So he's here for you guys, really he is. So we're just going to keep moving along here. Actually, we have got tons of time to talk about this deck. So this is the a deck by Orc Cannon, his orcs. So he's got he's going with Blood and Ruby. He's got Darkspire Priestess, Crushing Blow, Gore Feast of Kog'Tepetl. Crimson Clarity, Claw of the Mountain God, Infernal Professor, Throat Cutter, Endbringer, Hertzeg to draw him some cards, Furious Taskmaster, Fang of the Mountain God, Zoltog, Burn to the Ground, Shame, Gladiator, and Murder. So he's kind of all over the place. Now he does have at least a lot of the orcs are kind of throughout the deck. So it's one of those things where I'm looking at this deck and I'm saying, okay, well, we need to focus, and that's a lot of times what I'm seeing. His curve is pretty good though. It's not too bad. He's got a lot of nice 1-drops, and he's got his 2-drops, and so first things first, I'll probably throw some Shards of Fate in here. It's one of the things I basically do for color fixing and dual shard decks all the time. Actually, Dan, I'm going to ask you real quick about this website, and things keep getting better all the time, but I love the mana curve on this, the way it tells me that, and you can do that with the cards now, which you guys just implemented. But have you guys taken a look at this website and maybe thought about some of the different things that this website does to make it easy to build decks?
Yeah, I mean, we're always going out and trying to look at ways that we can improve the intuitiveness of the client, and things like the mana curve layout here are perfect, and that's the type of things we're looking for to implement.
Right, and that's really exciting for me because it's something I've talked about forever, and I actually that's the first time I've got to actually ask someone on the inside at Cryptozoic about it, so that's pretty exciting for me. So just to keep it simple right now, we aren't counting shards yet, so we're just going to reduce our shards. We have 23 shards in here, which seems okay given our 4s and 5-drops. Right, so we've got Crimson Clarity in here, and so the problem with Crimson Clarity for me is it's not a body, and this is kind of an aggro deck. So we'll probably cut that. I mean, it's going to accelerate you, but you're losing a card. You're giving up a card to throw a body in play. So, so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And while I'm doing that, Dan can answer another question that he sees in chat.
I was actually going to comment on this deck real quick. I can get into this a little bit.
Okay.
It looks like he could really use some extra stuff to apply early game pressure, so I think Savage Raiders would probably be a good inclusion to the deck.
I agree.
I also like Savage Raider when you're playing cards like Crushing Blow, because he's forced to attack every turn. It's not as clear that you're attacking with a combat trick, and it's a lot easier to get better use out of the Crushing Blows.
Right, I do like the Crushing Blow. That's a definite keeper.
Yeah. I mean, it would just work so great with like Claw of the Mountain God, Endbringer, Zoltog. These are all just great guys to be using this with. Um, and I think I'd probably want to switch the champion to Puka.
Yeah,
Poca.
I agree. Completely agree. So we're going to swap over to Poca.
Yeah, it's great in combination with Gore Feast of Kog'Tepetl. You can do a whole lot of damage if the opponent's not ready for it.
Right, exactly. Or if you only need like 6 damage, Gore Feast pushes you over the edge with Poca. You know, if your opponent's tapped out or something, which is something you don't typically want to do versus a an opponent like this. Let's see. For some reason, I have Sapphire active. I need to have Blood active. There we go. So and you know, on the the interface, it has gotten a ton better. It's so much faster. You guys wouldn't even believe. So anyone that's complaining about the interface now should have played at the beginning or watched some videos of people playing, building decks with the interface at the beginning of Alpha compared to what it is now. It was a ridiculously slower.
The question regarding the standard rotation, that's something that we'll still be talking about inside the company for a while before we officially make a decision on that. But it will be for a while, and you'll have plenty of sets. So that's in the distant future. So I think for now you should just. It's not really something to be particularly concerned about.
Right now, I'm looking for cards to throw in the deck that we're gonna pare down. So I'm just kind of looking through everything. Where was it? So Fiendish Cabalist was kind of broken the last time I played him. Did he get fixed? Do you know about that, Dan?
He should be, yeah.
Okay, good. Because like, yeah, he wasn't going off of my opponent's hand size at all, which, you know, was a little bit. Every time something like that happens, I'm sure everybody's experienced this. They're like, oh, like they play the card and it doesn't act properly. You know, like, oh. Infiltrator Bot's a great draft pick. This is a card that is overlooked a lot. I just want to point that out right now as we're going through looking at the cards that we can put in here. It's a best, you know, as a 1 of, maybe a 2 of, I think, in draft. I think it's a great card that gets overlooked a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What else we got? We probably don't want to play Fulmination. Mancubus is picking up steam. I'm seeing him get played a lot more with what's his name, the rogue guy that gives you +3 front end.
Yeah, be able to steal their bigger guys.
Yeah, that's a really good, and that's another deck that I'm seeing like pick up some steam. So we might see some representation of that tomorrow, I think. Infernal Professor, I don't especially like in this deck because it hurts us and puts us a turn behind. It's not another body. It could cast something cheaper, but this feels like more of a combo deck. I kind of want to play Infernal Professor with like Chimes of Zodiac or something. So I'm going to cut that.
Yeah, Infernal Professor really like you want to be applying as much pressure as possible, and Infernal Professor just isn't really going towards that. This isn't a deck where you're planning out a very long game. You want to be focusing all your attention to being able to finish off the opponent as soon as possible because you also have a lot of cards that are dealing damage to you. So it really is a race.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Infernal Professor just doesn't really help with that.
Right. Yeah, and another thing about Infernal Professors, it's kind of like a ghetto peak is the way I look at it. It's like a peak where you don't actually get to pick a card. So it's kind of, it deck thins, which is nice, but other than that, it's a very interesting card. Another great card for the design space. Actually, I just thought of a question, Dan. So when you guys are deciding which cards to reveal to your opponent and which ones not to, like what goes into that decision process? Because in the digital space, the game keeps us honest. So like some cards don't do that, but some cards do, like, you know, like Argus or like Shrine.
A lot of that stuff is for Argus. It's almost strictly thematic. Like we want you to, it's, you know, this giant doomsday device and it's coming. We want you to know that it's coming.
Right.
And you know, its effect is pretty strong too. So a lot of times it can also be balance issues of just like, well, we feel as though the other player should be informed as to what's about to be going on here. And another factor is just in making sure that the game is intuitive. Sometimes we need to, although it's in the digital space, we need to make sure that we don't have too much stuff just firing off where you're like, I don't really know what's going on here. So we have to be careful of that.
Right. Lionel Flynn, I see that in chat. You guys corrected me as per the usual.
So for each set, so far we do have plans to continue making champions that we'll be adding onto the game, so that there's always new stuff to be coming out and things that'll be promoting new decks too.
Ragefire is like the obligatory card that has to go in every Ruby deck, especially. I say it's just there. I mean, it has to be there. It ends games when you top deck it a lot of times.
I think Ragefire is actually probably a better card in this deck than Burn of the Ground, because Burn of the Ground is just, it's going to be a little bit too expensive, and for how quickly it looks like these games are going to be going, you might not want the X.
Yeah, Burn of the Ground is probably pretty bad. Burn is also another one you're probably going to want a play set of as well. It's obligatory.
We'll be making an announcement sometime in the near future about the rotation of gems, but I don't want to get too deep into that at the moment.
Right. So, but you did just confirm it. Probably don't necessarily. I mean, the murder's okay. Corpse Life Siphon. Let's see. Just kind of working my way through the cards. Like I've told people before, memorizing the cards is a big deal for when you're thinking about your decks, because you don't want to necessarily like have to go through every single card. I mean, you're going to want to know like a basic idea of about 3 to 4 cards for the deck before you start working on it. So we're mostly orcs, so that's what we have to go with. I do typically go through the whole list, but I mean, memorizing cards is a huge deal.
I think over the murder, this deck might be looking for something like Burn. Although it's not quite as impactful, and you're not able to necessarily get rid of the bigger guys. You want to make sure that your cards have a broader range of what they can do. And Burn weaves into your turns much easier, and is able to also finish off the opponent, as well as clear away guys that could potentially be blocking, where Murder is just a lot clunkier, and you can't remove a guy and apply more pressure to the board inside of the same turn.
Right. Yeah. So Murder is definitely more of a reserves, as we call it in Hex, card, or for you Magic people, a sideboard card, I would say, in this deck. Sometimes there are just things that are just too big that have a much bigger back end, especially the Angel that we're starting to see get play a lot more. Also, I guess another good question is when are we going to see best of 3 matches when we're just doing casual challenges? Is that coming soon, or?
We should have different implementations for whatever it is that the players are actually looking for. We should have a little bit of something for everybody. We're considering doing some best of 1 stuff, which I think is already in there, but we'll also have some best of 3 things going on as well.
So I feel like we're kind of getting there. We're definitely a lot more aggressive in our 1-2 range. We might even be able to eventually get down to like what do you call it? Like maybe 20, 22 or 21 shards if you really want to push it. It depends if we decide to keep certain things in the deck. Let's see. We got Fang and Claw. How much Fang and how much Claw do we want? So Fang I don't actually like as much as I like Claw, and the reason why is because the trade-off of damage, it's like I play a Fang, then I take a damage, and then I kind of get caught up, but then like if they could kill it in the next turn, and now we're even on damage again. So I probably play with like maybe just 1 or 2 less of these, although it is interesting to see Fang, the interaction between Fang and Zoltog, so I think we definitely need 2 Zoltog in here. I like Tatalka because she is removal, although she's late game removal, so maybe she doesn't go in this deck. So we could probably remove her.
I like the Fang with Endbringer as well.
Yeah.
He can get you down to the life total in which your guys start getting the Rage 2.
Right, yeah. So maybe Endbringer is probably better. So we'll pump that back up. I did take it down because it's kind of like an end of the game thing. I'm also looking at Gore Feast and I took Gore Feast down already, but I could pump it back up. Let's see. We're at 70 cards. We need to cut quite a few cards. So I'm not really into Shame's Gladiator. I'm not sure how to gem this guy. I think that's the main thing. He's a what do you call it, gem? He's a minor gem, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So
I think he's also kind of a bigger risk than the Fang, because you pay for all the damage that you take right up front, and if they have something to kill him immediately,
Yeah.
then you've already paid the price.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so I think we're just going to cut him from the deck. We've got a pretty good 2-point range anyways with the Rage Fire. We're
You
going to take...
still have the
Go
Furious
ahead.
Taskmaster and the Darkspire Priestess, so it looks like there's still 2 drops in there.
Right. Taskmaster's a lot like a buff, so we'll probably take him down to like 3. I mean, he's still really good. He can come in with speed, which is really awesome. Tormentor, I've seen a lot of people running about 2 of those, which is probably about right, so we could probably take that down. The early Tormentor doesn't apply a lot of pressure, but the late Tormentor is definitely good. So we're trying to build up our curve a little bit. So 2 looks like our big end of the curve. I already took our shards down to 22. We need to cut about 3 more cards right now. I'm not sure if I want to run the other Darkspire card. I think it's pretty vanilla, if I remember right. Dark. So the other one is Darkspire Enforcer, which is a 3/2. It's not bad. It's not horrible.
I think that guy's probably a little bit too slow for this deck.
The Priestess.
The Blanco free guy.
The
Darkspire
3/2.
Enforcer.
Yeah, vanilla. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really hate playing cards without abilities unless they're crazy bodies.
Yeah.
And even if they are, I mean, it still feels bad.
Who knows though? Maybe the Darkspire stuff might get a little extra.
Who knows?
In,
Who knows? Who knows, Dan? Let's see. What else could we do in here? We don't have to cut that many cards. We're at 63. We did take our shards down. Maybe a 3 drop somewhere. Maybe a Darkspire will go back down. It's all right. It's pretty good. It's gonna give you a little bit of board state. Yeah, maybe a claw. Maybe go down to 3 on each of those. So early game, we're really going to want our ruby shards, and then we're going to want our blood shards, and then kind of like, as long as we've got those, we should be set. 2 of each shard. We need to probably look at some of that, the threshold values. Right, so we need to dump another 1 card. See, we've got people that are already on that Darkspire train. So just because I don't like Fang as much, I'm probably going to cut a Fang. So we'll go down to 2 Fangs. We already have a really good... we've got a lot of 1 drops, and that actually helps our coverage there. I thought it would. We're still at 14 and 14. It's not that bad. It should be all right though. With 22 resources, you're kind of pushing some limits.
I'm going to chime in here real quick for some of the questions on the side over here.
Right.
So in consideration of multiplayer matches in the future, it is something that we are mindful of. It doesn't take an overwhelming amount of our consideration because we still want to make sure that PvP 1v1 is what's getting pushed the most. But through tweaking of cards like Ball Cannon and stuff, we're particular about the wording to make sure that we get it in the place that we actually want to have it be landing in when we have multiplayer games coming out. So it is something that we are conscious of. And then in the development of set 1, I think you might be meaning the design of set 1 for influencing the themes and flavor mechanics of PvE dungeons. The designs, yes, there's a great deal paid attention there for making sure that the 2 of those are intertwined. And you'll see some of the big cards in PvP are actually have dungeons centered around them, which should be fun and give more of a backstory to the individual cards.
So I'm looking over the deck right now, and we are running the Shards of Fate, which is going to slow us down a little bit on those turns 1. I'm not sure I like this split. I think I'd rather have another Blood Shard, but right now it looks like turn 1 we could have Fang. The big one is this double threshold on the Claw of the Mountain God that I'm looking at right now. It shouldn't be too bad, but I might consider cutting a Claw to bump that shard up. That's something, a consideration you can make, but there's a ton of 1 and 2 drops in this deck, and you're going to come through pretty aggressive. I don't know that I would run more Crushing Blows, because Crushing Blow doesn't do anything when you don't have any troops in play. It's a buff, and then we're also running Gore Feast, which is another buff by itself. But yeah, I think this is mostly where it is that I want it to be. You might run another Zoltag because he's just that good. But then if you did that, I would definitely cut Claw or something, and then get yourself another Shard as well. Somehow, I would find a place for that Shard. But I like the aggressive nature of this deck. Now, you're going to want to make sure it is that when you're playing the deck that you know, like if your opponent's playing Blood, you know that basically you could probably need to have about 6 damage on the table, 5 to 6 damage, and then just hold your cards for the first sweep. You could get super aggressive, but I wouldn't. You also have a lot of haste, or not haste, a lot of speed troops in the deck, which is going to help you push that damage through, along with Poca.
Yeah, I like that the layout of the deck right now is much more centered on the first 2 turns, which is really the most important turns for this deck. Is that it's trying to push its advantage as hard as it possibly can, and then you have the Claw of the Mountain God and Zoltag are really good for like ending the game. Endbringers 2 is great for that. And then if the opponent is able to clear away most of your guys, you still have some ability to reach out with the Furious Taskmaster, the champion ability, Rage, Fire, and Burn to finish off the very few last points of damage.
Right. Other cards you're going to want in the reserves on this one are obviously going to be Emberspire Witch, because you aren't healing yourself, so you don't care about healing anyways. Murder for those problematic cards. I'm not sure what else. You could run a Chaos Key because you don't have a way of dealing with permanents. But I mean, if you have to Chaos Key something, there's probably it has to be something really bad.
Well, the good part about things like that is that if you feel like you need to be playing a Chaos Key, it's probably because they're playing something that's so big that that's the only way to really handle it. And when you play against those matchups, you normally actually have enough time to do that. Right. It really slows your deck down, but the opponent is usually giving you the time to be able to do that.
Right. All right. So, you have any more questions for Dan? Plenty of questions, I'm sure, in the chat. We're pretty much done with this deck doctor. We're about to do the roll for the winner. I think pretty soon, probably in the next 10 minutes or so. I'd say. I'm letting my light start up so that way we can have a nice view on this area. So, questions for Dan. Surprised the specific card deck is being underplayed right now, and based on your internal testing.
Yeah, there is a lot of things that I thought might be happening differently. I really can't get into it because a lot of what we're trying to do is allow the players to really explore and figure out what it is that they want to be doing and how they can accomplish cool interactions with cards. So I'm not going to lay out, but there's a lot of things that I was assuming might have happened a little bit differently. Not by too much, but just a little bit.
So I'm counting all the people in channel to get ready for this roll because I have to do this the ghetto way. So more questions for Dan right now as we're getting ready for this giveaway. Also, if you have a friend, if you already have an alpha account and you have a friend that you want to give this to, then like when we talk, we're going to talk offline after this show. Make sure to let me know. I need an email address basically from somebody, and also I need you to be subscribed to me. Your friend doesn't have to be, but whoever wins, you need to be subscribed to me to win the Slacker Backer. I personally value it at about $100. I've had people argue with me about that, but it cost $50 back when it was available. You get 25 packs, which is $50 right there, and then a whole bunch of other promos and things. It's great. It's a great value. Counting public math, 19, 7, 28, 31, 32, 5, 36, 37, 44, 42, 43. 43 people in channel. This is like the biggest most people I've ever had on Deck Building with the Squire in the 25th episode. I'm really stoked about that. If you guys didn't see what I did before over here on the deck building tool, recently when I talked to the creator of the tool in episode 24, I suggested moving this deck analysis draw test over here. And if you click on that, it shows you exactly how many shards you have in the deck. It counts up the icons, which is the way I do my ratios. So if you look, we've got 19 blood icons and 33 ruby icons. And so that gives me a ratio of about 2 to 3. And so that's when I go back down and I basically do something close to that ratio, but I also take into consideration the deck. And again, I just want to remind everyone, when you're building decks, getting the basic foundations and making sure your curve is good is where you want to start. But then after that, you want to play the deck and then refine it, pull cards out, put cards in, and see how you feel about the deck more than anything else. So it looks like the light is on, so we're going to go ahead and flip over to this awesome diorama-ish thing that I set up. Camera 2. Going to camera 2. Alright, so if you haven't subscribed to me, please subscribe to me now, so when I click on you and check to make sure you subscribed on me after I make this roll, it's not embarrassing for both of us. Dan can go ahead and ask, you guys can ask some questions. I'm rolling the dice. I'm getting ready to roll the dice for that slacker backer. And I'm looking at my chat window, and I'm just gonna count like 1 to 43, not counting myself, on the window I'm looking at. So it might be a little bit different than what you guys are looking at. Okay?
Can I win it?
You cannot win it, Dan.
Oh, all right.
Warhammer with the Squire. Yeah, I'm an old school Warhammer player, so I used to paint models and things, and that's what we did for the background. So I'm rolling I'm basically rolling a D100, so you can see it there. 15, so I'm going to start counting it down, and I'm actually going to say the names. So we're going to build up to this. So Adam O is number 1, Opposed Draco is number 2, Armies of Mordor is 3, Bond With is 4, Chopsticks is 5, Core Prob 1 is 6, Dagzy 213 is 7. Oh wait, what just happened? He just left. Why would he do that to me? All right, so the Phoenix is 6. DJC is 6986 is number 7. Dowsis is 8. Down to 1 is 9. Fire Rock is 10. Fry OBV is 11. Gary 3K is 12. G Prime TV is 13. Greg Zilla 1 is 14. So that means Hant ZIE is the winner. Hant ZIE, HAN. So please, I'm about to check you. So if you haven't, subscribed to me, this is going to be embarrassing for both of us, mostly for you. All right, so let's do a check in this channel thing, and of course we will be having the deck list in case anyone was wondering. I always post it on YouTube below. Let's do we're selecting this guy. Right, so I should be able to do this. And I'm looking at, he's following 83 people. I'm guessing I got to be one of these people. That's a lot of people. That's almost, well, that's about double what we have in channel. Let's see.
Nancy, where are you? Get in here.
Oh, he better be following me, otherwise we're going to roll again. I'm looking. I'm not seeing myself. I am not seeing myself. He's not following me right now, it looks like. And it also shows that he's offline. So, yeah. So we're re-rolling. It's a re-roll. It's a re-roll. It's a re-roll, people. Alright. So let's start this up again. It's a re-roll. Yeah. It's 15 again. That was Hansi, so we're not going to roll that. That was 82, which was too many for the people we have. There's 26. So let's count it up again. So I'm just going to count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Why do they keep leaving? 21, 22, 23, 26. Nero Genius. Genius. Yeah, I know you follow me because you've been in my channel before. So Nero Genius, you get the Slacker backer. Make sure to contact me through Twitch with your email address or the email address you want to have the Slacker backer attached to. It's going to take some time to get that over to you. Just so you're aware, I'd have to pass it through William, and it could take up to a week, I think. So we're gonna go ahead and take care of that. So either now, or if you have a buddy that doesn't have access to the game, because I know that you do, that just let me know, and we'll work that out. Just make sure that you're communicating with me, and I'll make sure to get you that thing. Do we have any more questions for Dan? We have like 13 minutes left in the episode. Dan is here for you guys. Let's go ahead and go to the interview screen. The wonderful, wonderful interview screen, so you guys can ask him a couple of more questions. We got 13 more minutes with Dan. Don't waste this time, and then we'll close out the episode. Anybody have some questions for Dan? Let me think. I'm trying to think of some right now. Oh, Dan, what would you consider yourself to be like as far as a player? Do you like a Johnny player, a Spike, or a Timmy?
Well, I'm it's more of a crossbreed. How I always got
right.
started
You can be 2 or 3, right?
Yeah. I'm a Johnny Spike. More so in the Johnny category, though. I've always found a particular pride in building something new and then trying to make it work. So that's always where I've been landing. Dwarves are one of my favorite things to be doing in set 1. I like tinkering around and forming multiple cards to form a bigger piece, and then try to devastate the opponents with that.
Right. So yeah, you like to just win all at once with some crazy combo.
Yeah.
So people are asking about the beta. I mean, it's going to be soon. Someone's saying in the next 7 days. I don't think you can answer that.
I cannot answer that.
Right. So beta invites plan to go out through web applications. Like, I guess he's asking for closed beta invites. Like if you guys are going to do like some closed beta invites towards the end of it. Any thoughts on that? We have a ton of people. We have a ton of people in right now.
I actually don't know the answer, so I can't really touch on that.
Right. So yeah, it's coming. I actually did see a complaint on a recent YouTube video where they were like, "Oh, you guys kickstarted last year and it's been a full year. Where's the game?" and all this stuff. And I'm like, do they not understand the development process? Also, just so everyone's aware, with the Kickstarter, when you put money into Kickstarter, it's gone. So you kind of need to just set it aside, and if hopefully the company comes through for you. If not, usually you have something you can go back on. Of course, we're dealing with Cryptozoic, so the game is being made. We can see the game. We're playing the game. It's coming. It's just going to take some time. This is the first digital game. This is their first foray into a video game medium. So I think they're doing pretty well. Just saying.
Well, this is a game for the players, by the players, really. And we wanted to allow everybody to get in and kind of come along in the process with us. And there's lots of ups and downs, but I think we've been moving along, and we're so close now.
To answer Greg Zilla, will the Mac client be before beta? So according to the patch notes, it says that the Mac client is basically ready. So it sounds like once we go to beta, that should be ready.
Yes.
Yeah. So there you go. Confirmation on that one. I just want to say thanks for creating the board game, the Hobbit board game. I love that game. It's more of a dice game.
Good.
It's more of a dice game, but man, that is a great drinking game. Holy cow. It's a great game. So, and I did like the way you guys took it in the set 2. So if you guys haven't checked out some of Cryptozoic's other games, board games, card games, and things, I personally suggest that one. Okay, I've always been curious. Life drain, gain health based on attacker's offense rather than blocker's defense. Oh, that's.
I don't think I quite understand that.
Which one?
The life drain one. The life drain, like the thematics behind that is that you're essentially draining the life out of somebody, and it's more of an aggressive thing to be doing. So that's why it's through the attack.
Right. Right. So I have played other RPGs that have done that, like with vampires and stuff. Like if they didn't have the health because the vampire was draining it out of them, they didn't get it. But that was very number specific type of game. But typically, in most games, you're dealing the damage, and so it's on the damage, and that's why I would say. But from thematic, I believe that Dan answered that question quite well.
Today was actually a really fun day. We've been cranking away at set 2 again, and we're reaching the final stages of that. We got all of our 75% of our apprentices are now in the building, and so today we got to take a break and we just did a draft during the middle of the day and trying out the new mechanics, and we tweaked a lot of the cards, and so today has been a nice, relaxing, just playing games and just having fun.
Right. Yeah, and that's probably a lot of like it's been so go 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 the last couple months. I can imagine it's nice to have a little bit of rest time. I know over the
Yeah,
Christmas break. I'm glad you guys didn't catch any flack over the Christmas break. At least not that I saw. Like Congress does. Because you guys
it
need
is.
a break too. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it is always busy, and our breaks just are, let's just play some games, which, of course, is still work, but it's also awesome to play the game that we love and enjoy. Um, but the apprentices have been doing great. It's been, I think, a week and a half that we've got them in, and getting some fresh eyes on that and kind of showing them the ropes has been a great experience these last 2 weeks.
So Grum is asking, are you testing set 2 on the computer or still physical cards? I would think you're on the computer with those at this point.
Right now, they're actually all in the process of being scripted. I've got most of the cards are pretty close to their final designs. I'd say the set is maybe like there's always things that pop up, but the set's probably about 30 cards off of being like, okay, this is we can ship this.
So
So
Chop
as soon as we finish off the last of those, like the cards are all getting scripted and implemented right now. But in the future, we'll start moving that over onto the digital.
Right.
Client.
Chopsticks is asking, will we be able to personalize champions, change their colors, etc.? So he's asking about aesthetics. Obviously, we're going to have the PvE champions, which you'll be able to level up, and those will be unique to you. Another one that could be interesting is maybe gems on champions in the future. So, any
There is
customization on
there's
champions?
there's a lot of space here to be explored, and that's still something that we're going to get into, and figure out what it is that we want to be accomplishing with that. So there's a lot of things that can be accomplished in the digital space. So always just be waiting with excitement of what we're going to come out with next.
I think somebody actually, there's a question I didn't ask you, which was about the PvE dungeon. Someone tweeted me that one earlier today, and he asked if the PvE dungeons, like how many are planned for us to see in the beta process. I think it's just 2.
I think that's something that probably Corey should elaborate on.
Okay.
We've got a lot of them finished off, and I think it is a really good experience. For me, I'm a PvP player. Like that's what I would get really excited about. And when I got moved on to Hex and I heard about the PvE experience, I was like, I'm not sure about how I'm going to interact with that. And then as soon as I actually got in to play it and sit down and enjoy that, it was like, wow, this actually surprised me how much fun this is.
Right. Yeah, I've always said that Chris and I are 2 peas in the pod. It was great to meet him. Actually, I sent him modules quite a while back. I have no idea. He probably saw them, but like they're probably buried in email at this point in time, and I'm guessing he's running around with hair on fire sometimes over there. But yeah, the PvE is very akin to dungeon mastering, I would think. Because he said he already started up like a Dungeons and Dragons group over there. That was like one of the first things he did when he got over there. So yeah, Chris Woods would be the biggest person to talk to about the PvE stuff. However, I do know that Corey said in an interview that we will have a PvE arena, which will probably be like 2 or 3 decks that you'll have to do. But that means that they'll probably be testing the experience systems with that, and then also some of the champion leveling is what I would think that's for. I don't know if you
Yeah,
can comment that.
uh, I can't count on that. The arena will be a bigger experience than just a couple decks, though.
Okay. Well, all right. So look forward to that. Will there be a shop locator system for finding hobby locations that support Hex on the website, I guess?
I'm not sure what we have for that right now. I know we will probably want to be promoting inside brick and mortar stores, but it is a digital product, so there's only so much we can really do there. But we'll probably be having different scratch off items and things like that that the hobby stores can be promoting the game with. But I'll look into whether or not we'll be having a shop locator.
Right. I guess I have a question along those lines. So you guys sell a lot of other products and stuff. Is there any chance that to support Hex and other things that we might see some maybe like some PvE like exclusives if you buy like such and such board game from Cryptozoic? You guys talked about that?
No, that's not a conversation that I'd be involved in.
Oh, okay. So it looks like we're coming to the end of the episode, so we're going to go ahead and close things out here. So tonight I had Dan Clark. It's episode 25. We gave away a Slacker backer. It was pretty freaking awesome. We talked about patch 830. We went and we fixed Ian Cannon's Orc deck. And if you guys want to see that deck list, you can look below. You guys, I'll post that on every area where I have that posted. We did our giveaway. Congratulations to Nero Genius for winning that. One of my longtime viewers. It couldn't have gone to a nicer guy. He's in here all the time supporting me. Make sure this you guys are getting out there, doing the tournament tomorrow, the pro tournament, testing your mettle against all the other players, also supporting all the other streamers, and of course supporting Hex as the game. Getting the word out, talking to people about it. Dan, over to you, and then I'll do my sign off.
Thank you so much for having me on. This has been great, and thank you again, all the players. We could not have done this without you. From the feedback on the UI and the client to even game development and things like that, just it's for you guys, and thank you so much for helping us out and being along for the ride.
All right, well, this is Aaron Squire signing off, saying God bless you and your families, and try not to rage too much out there.